Mr. President, we were sitting in the cloakroom between the last two votes that just happened in the Senate. Everybody's phone started buzzing at the same time, and that's because everyone receives these alerts from the National Weather Service. And the alert said flash flood warning until 9:15 p.m. this evening. And I thought it was ironic because I was headed down here on the floor to speak about flooding, and in particular flood insurance, which is a threat to so many different states across the country. And so it's an ironic moment that reminds us of what that means to us here, but also what it means to people in the real world who are impacted by this. The House earlier today passed an extension of the National Flood Insurance Program, and it extends it for 4 months. It would expire November 30th of this year. And I'm here today to tell you how critical it is that the Senate act on this as soon as possible, because this program will expire next Tuesday, July 31st, 6 days from today, if we do not take action. Now, let me preface everything I'm about to say by telling you that this program is badly broken. It is not financially stable. It is not financially sustainable. It is a program that needs to be reformed. I don't like the way it's designed one bit, and I've been working for years to try to reform it and to try to open up space for the private sector to come in and compete with the program and provide more options for people who need it. I want everybody to understand that in many parts of Florida, I'm sure it's true in other parts of the country, you can't buy a house in some places if you don't have flood insurance. The mortgage just won't, they just won't write it because of the threat of damage to the property and the loss of value. And that is widespread throughout the state of Florida. There are many places where that is a fact. And so while I don't like the way the program is designed, and I desperately want us to reform it to be consistent with market principles and sustainable in the long term, the answer is not to let it expire. The answer is not to let it expire, because as we do, we're going to have an economic catastrophe. If we allow flood insurance to expire, there are real estate closings that will stop. And I would add one more point to it, and that is we would be allowing this to expire in the middle of the hurricane season. We just went through hurricane season last year that impacted Florida, it impacted Texas, it impacted Puerto Rico, and the damage that it did, economic and otherwise, was extensive. And we don't know what this season holds, but we're right smack in the middle of it. So I can't think of anything worse than allowing it not just to expire, but to expire in the middle of the hurricane season. So I would have hoped that the extension would have been for 6 months, the way we got done in the Senate Farm Bill. But I believe a 4-month extension is better than none at all. And my biggest fear is that it's going to get lost here in all the other issues we're dealing with. And my hope and my ask here today is that the leadership of this chamber bring this extension for a vote, perhaps as early as Monday evening when we return. Because to allow this thing to drag into Tuesday midnight, I'm telling you it's going to have a dramatic and negative impact on people in Florida and across the country. Now, let me go back to one of the reforms that need to happen, because a lot of people I saw, one of the organizations that I agree with a lot was out there, what they do, key scoring this vote in the House against it. And they made great points about how broken this program is. They're absolutely right about that. And I personally support reforms that will increase private market involvement in this program. But I want to go back to the practicality of it. While I want there to be reforms, I cannot hold hostage, and we should not hold hostage, real people and families whose homes and lives will be at risk while Congress tries to figure this out. It has to be done. Now, I don't want to be in this cycle of perpetual extension. I'm as frustrated about it as anybody else. I wish we could find some permanence to this, that in a way that didn't wipe everybody out by raising their rates, but was also sustainable in the long term. And we have to continue to work through that. But as a senator from Florida, recognizing that over a third of the total policies nationwide are in the state that I represent, I have to come here today with a strong sense of urgency and arguing on behalf of my neighbors and my constituents and my own family, who depends on flood insurance in order not just to protect their homes in the middle of a hurricane cycle, but to be able to transact real estate deals, selling a home, buying one, even commercial buildings, all these things that depend on this market being healthy. Now, in terms of the long-term reforms, affordability assistance has to be a key part of any one of those reforms. The last time that we extended this for 5 years, in 2012, the premiums in the state of Florida skyrocketed. And what it did is it caused a massive exodus from this program, particularly out of Florida. bunch of people left the program. And that's a problem because the key to having a sustainable program is having enough people in it. That's the whole purpose of insurance. You need to have enough people so you can spread the risk. But if people begin to migrate out of the program, and it usually is going to be the safest properties are going to leave because they're the ones less willing to pay the higher premium, you're going to be left with adverse selection. We've heard that term used in health insurance debates. And so if you don't have enough properties and enough safe properties to spread the risk, it drives up the premiums even more. It makes the program even less healthy. That's why the key to any reforms has to be a program that is affordable enough to have that sort of participation. But we can't expect people to participate in a program they can't afford. I think the one component of flood insurance reform that everyone should agree with is the importance of strong mitigation funding. FEMA and numerous other groups have repeatedly cited statistics confirming that every dollar that we spend on mitigation against flooding, mitigation against sea level rise, mitigation against all these things, that every dollar spent on mitigation results in $4 or more saved in future disaster recovery. Every single year now, it seems like we are spending millions upon tens of millions of dollars on recovery packages from storms. Imagine if we could prevent some of that at the front end by funding mitigation efforts in concert with the state and local governments. Flood insurance reform is going to require a proactive approach to a problem that's only been addressed in a reactionary way up to this point. So simply raising rates without fundamentally changing what plagues the program will only lead to more people, more individuals leaving the program and an even larger disaster supplemental package when future storms occur. Floridians deserve a program that is transparent and that is affordable. And right now, this program is neither. But I believe that the House and Senate can come to an agreement on a law that will achieve these goals. And I think we need to do so in a way that is long-term and sustainable. And that's why once we pass this 4-month extension, and I say once we do because I cannot imagine not doing it. I cannot imagine leaving next week at some point for a 1-week recess in early August and leaving this thing lapsed. It can't happen. It's just not an option. It has to be dealt with. But once we do that, then we really, truly need to work on enacting before November 30th, when this extension would expire, the fundamental flaws of the program and allow the flood insurance program to move forward on a path that is responsible, affordable, and sustainable, not one that continues to require the government to bail it out. So that's what I hope will happen here, and I reiterate where I started. In the strongest possible terms, I cannot emphasize this enough. I truly hope that we will bring this reauthorization for a vote as soon as possible, that my colleagues will cooperate, because at Tuesday at midnight of next week, if we haven't acted, there will be hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people across this country, and many of them in my home state, that are going to find that their property in the middle of the hurricane season is not covered against water damage because they cannot get flood insurance. And that would be catastrophic for our economy, and it would be catastrophic for Florida and the impacted states. And so I'm just here to repeat and urge as strongly as I can that the leadership bring this up for a vote as soon as we are done dealing with the 4 appropriations bills that are before us. There is no other option. We cannot allow this to expire.